in the group chat, not because we do housing, we don't handle housing, we don't have housing programs, but as Commissioner Ellis mentioned before, one of the things that we do in our 5 divisions is residential code enforcement. So I know some of y'all love us and some of y'all hate us. But yes, we're the ones who put the yellow placards in your yard. We're the ones that tell you to mow it down, clean it up, or tear it down. I want to focus on tear it down because many of the actual houses that we end up having to condemn in many of our communities are inheritance properties. This is Big Mama's house, Big Daddy's house that they couldn't keep up, that they didn't have the fixed income to put towards it, and the family didn't have the income to put towards it. Now, I still got to do my job if it's a threat to public health and safety. So if it's got to come down, it's got to come down. But what we want to go back and make sure people understand is that even if the house comes down, is the value in the house? Where is the value? In the land. So that's what this seminar is about. And I'm speaking from experience because like everybody in this room probably, we all got a Big Mama's house in our family. Mine happens to be in South Park and we got a couple of them in St. Martinville and Lafayette, Louisiana. You heard me? So y'all understand what that is. And we also have other family members who are either not in a position to financially contribute, they don't pay the taxes, they don't want to do anything. But today, we have 2 of our panelists here who are going to walk us through, because what I know and what you know is knowledge is power and information is absolutely powerful. And one of the reasons I think that some people in our community are so quick to sell off Big Mama's property is because they don't have the money to fix it up, right? Don't have the money to pay the taxes, okay? And you got 4 or 5 different people fighting over what to do with it. But today we want to make sure that you have options and you know what those options are. You have land lease options. The value is in the land. So even if you have to demolish the house because it's beyond renovation, you can repurpose that land for something else. You can look at maybe building another structure for a long-term or a short-term rental. You may be able to get an agricultural lease on the property where somebody who out here is familiar with our urban areas, Sunnyside and Acres Homes. How many times have y'all gone up and down Cullen and Scott or West Montgomery and y'all see people click-clacking on horses? Well, if you got a vacant lot, please keep it cut, but maybe you need to look at having an agricultural lease on that lot and let people park their horses and their livestock that of course meet the city ordinances there. You have options. And that's what today's seminar is about. So I want to welcome to the stage our 2 panelists today to talk about those options. Y'all ready? All right, so I want to welcome to the stage Mr. Onaje Barnes.
Hey, everybody.
And Miss Brandy Sams. They are joining us on behalf of Wealth Mastermind Academy, and we're going to talk about all of the things. Let's welcome them to the stage right now.
What up, Houston? What's up? What's up? Hey, everybody. My name is Onaje Barnes. I'm a proud Houstonian from 3rd Ward, Texas, represent with the Jack Hayes High School, Lockhart Elementary, so I am from here, okay? And just so before we had this conversation, I'm gonna give people a little bit of background about myself. Look, I came from a mom, single parent household, 4 kids. We ain't have a whole lot of money. So if I could come up with some properties, y'all can definitely say Big Mama's or Pawpaw's house or Auntie's house or, whoever house, right? The money is absolutely in the land. I'm here representing with my partner, Brandy Sands, with the Wealth Mastermind Academy. You can check our booth out in the back. We're the ones that are selling the Black Wall Street books for the kids, so go check us out there. But I definitely want to get into this conversation.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Brandy, give us a brief introduction and we're going to go ahead and get started.
Hello, everyone. Okay, now we're ready. So I want to say welcome and thank you guys for having me. My name is Brandy Sams. I am a 6th generation landowner. I want you guys to have your children, your grandchildren, and your great-grandchildren to be in the position that my grandmother gave for me, to be able to go to college, to be able to have no debt, to be able to have additional properties. This is what this is all about. I finance residential and commercial properties nationwide. I have also had previous experience in title and escrow, as well as working on the secondary market. So I have seen properties in every facet across the United States. And this is a very, very important topic. So I want to make sure that everyone pays attention, that you get your questions ready, and that we just have a good old time, because we family.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Brandy. Now look, we're not going to give legal advice from the stage because we're not in a position to do that, but I want to point out one other thing once we finish with this particular seminar. Right over here to my left and your right, we have lawyers who are here from the National Bar Association to answer any legal questions that you have about what's going on with the property that you have. Please take advantage of talking to them, whether it's an intestate property, which in more instances it probably is, whether it's basically how to buy your relatives out that don't want to be bothered, but you do, how to look at situations like that, what the probate process is, or then even questions for your own family. The National Bar Association is here, around the room and outside in the foyer. There are banks and lenders, Wells Fargo, US Bank. I see Prosperity Bank over here in the back. And of course, I am a realtist. Anybody in an I'm a realtist shirt can point you in the direction of your next realtor. So you have everything you need in this building to get this journey started and take care of Big Mama's house. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, you just found out Big Mama done went on, the house is there, y'all done got your ignorant cousin out and has been tearing the house up, okay? Now the question becomes, what we gonna do? I live in Pearland, I live in the suburbs. No one wants to live there because our demographics have changed. Most of us have our own homes, right? But we want to figure out what to do with Big Mama's house. And somebody says, well, we ought to fix it up and we can rent it out. Onaje, what do we do to get started?
So first things first, we have to understand that a house is a liable asset, okay? Empty houses are major liabilities. Anybody got a rundown house in the family, right? It's a little toe up a little bit, got too much work in it, you feel like you ain't got the money. You and your sisters, your brothers, or whatever, y'all arguing about who gonna fix up the house, so everybody's like, I ain't doing that, right? So first, if you're in this room, likely you might be a leader in your family. So what I'm gonna tell you to do is step up and be a leader, okay? And part of stepping up is saying, hey, I'm gonna go get the money. And let me tell you where the money at. Anybody wanna know where the money at? Anybody want to guess where the money is?
I'm a little bit too quiet. Y'all, do y'all want to know where the money is?
Yes? Okay, I'm going to tell you. It's a very simple answer. It's in the house. It's in the house. These houses are assets. I'm here with a lender because she knows how to go get the money out the house. Okay? So what you're going to do is you're going to use the house as collateral for a loan. Whoa, somebody told you not to get a second loan on the house, right? Somebody told you that? Anybody told you that before? That's, unfortunately, I don't know about that, right? It's a great way to get some capital. You don't have to use all of the money out the house, but you go get some money out of that house, get a HELOC, home equity line of credit, or a HE loan, a home equity loan. You take that money, and that's who you pay your contractor with, okay? That's how you get the money. Now, you then go rent this house out. And now you can actually start making some money, right? We got student loans to pay. We got college bills to pay for, right? We got bills on top of bills to pay for, right? Instead of that house being a liability, because you got to pay taxes and insurance or the code enforcement on your butt, right? We don't need that. Let's start actually making some money on that house. So one of the strategies I do, we do short-term, mid-term, and long-term rentals. Okay, we do have 50 doors. I own 3 apartment complexes and a boutique hotel in 3rd Ward. Okay, so I've been doing this, and I've been doing this for 17 years. One of my key strategies is actually, I'm about to shock y'all, I work a lot with Houston Housing Authority, Section 8. I love Section 8. Why? One, because I'm doing a good thing, first thing. First things first, we're actually doing a good thing. Most people on Section 8 actually work. They're hardworking people. Their money just don't add up. Okay, the reason why it don't add up because there's a thing called inflation. Y'all heard inflation, right? Inflation kicking y'all butt. Inflation kicking your butt. Yeah. Okay, you know who butt is not kicking? Mine. And I'm gonna tell you why. Because inflation is the friend of asset holders. When you hold an asset, when you keep it long term, it goes up in value. You know what else goes up in value? Rent. Rent go up in value? Cash flow, right? So that's one of the, we got a lot of different strategies, but I'll stop right there. We can talk a little bit more about Section 8 in a second.
He already mentioned that you can use the actual house as collateral. So let's expound on that just a little bit more, and then we want to go back to the Section 8 conversation, because as Onaje said, everybody on Section 8 ain't acting a fool. They're just people that whose money is not adding up. So if I don't want to use the house as collateral, what other options do I have? Are there banks that have renovation capital? Are there other organizations that might give some kind of renovation capital?
So different municipalities also have funds that can be used in order for you to renovate a property, to bring it out of blight, in order to make sure that it is something that the city or the local municipality can benefit from. Because at the end of the day, city makes money through property taxes, right? So it's not a benefit to them to see all these properties stay in a disproportionate position, right?
Yes, we want the properties
You know,
up to code.
investors got money too, just to add that in, right?
That's
Y'all
where
get
I'm
called.
going with it.
If y'all want to get that property up, I guarantee you there's a lot of investors in the room would love that property. Okay? And I want people to understand there's a lot of creative ways. There's a lot of money out there because you have the asset. Everybody wants your asset but you. Why is that? Why is that?
The other thing you can do too, though, what people don't often know is through your 401ks, you can a lot of times have hardship withdrawals. Now talk to your own individual, retirement department to figure out how that works. But you can pull out money from your 401ks oftentimes and also use those funds, and now you're paying yourself back, right? So you're not necessarily paying that interest to a lender outside of yourself, but now you're using your own capital in order to do that. And then you can use later on, once you fix up the property, it's going to increase in value. At that point in time, you can look at doing a cash out refinance if you don't want to do a HELOC or a HE loan. And now you've taken out cash to either replace that as well. And now you can just further and further and further how you circulate that money within your own family community, not just your own community.
And I appreciate you bringing that point out. And Onaje brought up another point as well about investments. Now, realizing that we know investors are out there today, we want to keep this conversation, Onaje, around people that want to keep their property. They don't want to sell them. So we want to talk about those issues too. That's an option if that's what you want to do, but just be smart about the investor that you link up with. But if you're trying to keep the family property, and you mentioned before that the house is collateral. We also have 401k options. When you visit with some of the banks who are here today, as I mentioned before, U.S. Bank, Prosperity, Wells Fargo, and I can't think of the other partner who's out there as well, talk with them about renovation capital. And one of the other things that we've got to go ahead and just look into, it may not be everybody in the family, but as Onaje said, if you are the leader, it is going to be an investment. It's going to be an investment of your time, it's going to be an investment of your credit, it's going to be an investment of all of those things, but there are ways you will get the return back on your investment when you look at ways to actually hold on to your family's inheritance properties. Now, when we talked about housing, can you tell us, or at least walk people through how they can actually put these homes on housing?
Yeah, so let me get rid of a couple misnomers first about housing, right? Because most of us probably got some negative opinions about housing or Section 8. So number one, as I mentioned earlier, most people on housing are good people, okay? The largest influx of people that I see coming on housing is actually elderly folks right now. I see a lot of older folks. They chilling, y'all. They not about to tear up your house, they old, okay? But they do deserve to retire with dignity, and I believe in that, okay? So you can go, so number one with housing, number one misnomer, you get to interview your client, okay, period. That's number one. A lot of people think that, oh, the Section 8 will place someone. No, you put your house up for lease just like any other lease, okay? The only difference is you just advertise to say, I accept Section 8. That's it, right? Now, the process is different, and all you're doing is you have a lease with the tenant, and you have a contract with the Houston Housing Authority or Harris County Housing Authority or Fort Bend Housing Authority. And their contract merely states, it's a long piece of paper, but I'll tell you in summary what it states. It basically says they're gonna pay for someone else. That's all it's saying. And last time I checked, I don't know about y'all, government checks clear.
Every month.
They direct deposit on the first or the second, right? Depending upon which housing authority. So for me, I'm not chasing down my tenants that much, right? Not chasing for their portion because we do want them to pay their portion, but most people on Section 8 actually work. So that's first things first. A lot of people think it's just kind of like welfare queens. That's a brand that people want to put on us, other people that don't look like us. That's what they try to say about us. But just so y'all know, those other people actually are on housing at a greater rate than us. A lot of people don't know that.
Absolutely.
The majority of people on housing are not black people in America, just so we're clear. That's a fact.
Check the facts.
Okay, so number one, you can do this from a just an altruistic perspective. It's good to help people get off the street, real talk, okay? And it's good to help people kind of get their feet up on it. I got plenty of tenants that have been with me for a long time. I've seen their kids grow up, and all they needed was just a shot to be in the house. I remember one of my first housing tenants, she was 43 at the time. She had never lived in a home before, as a renter or anything. She had only been in apartments. Her kids had only never had a yard, right? So I was able to help provide that for her. And what she did, she take care of the house. So that's number one. Number two, again, you get to choose your tenants. Now let me tell y'all some stats, okay? Most landlords are biased and they don't accept housing. And that's legal for them not to accept housing in the state of Texas, okay? So what does that mean? I'm an economics guy. We're talking about supply and demand. There's a ton of people that have vouchers, a ton, and very few landlords willing to win for them. So what does that mean? You get a large pool of people, right? For not that many of a product, so you get to pick and choose the best candidate, right? Now you gotta follow your fair and housing laws, y'all. Make sure that you're not discriminating, but guess what? You get to interview, and that's one of the biggest things I recommend to landlords when doing housing. Don't accept the first voucher. Don't accept the first person. Tell people we're gonna market this for 2 weeks, we're gonna accept all the applications, and we're gonna choose the best candidate, okay? So that's one thing, again, a lot of people have a misnomer. You don't have to take the first person. And housing don't have to determine. You get to determine who gets to put in your house. So I think this is very important for people to understand. Then now here's the other one. A lot of people, not to go on, but I'm passionate about this if y'all can tell. Another misnomer is that they gonna tear up your house. You everybody heard that before? Section 8 person gonna tear up your house, you heard that? Okay, let me tell you why this is a misnomer. Now one, they'll tear it up if you let them, but that's any tenant. Trust me on that. Any tenant will tear up your crib if you let them. But I ain't letting it, right? So one thing I tell people is that the housing authority has an inspection that you must pass to get onto housing, to get approved for your check, okay? So that means they weed out slumlords. And then they have an annual inspection, okay? That they come in and inspect the crib. And they're gonna say, this repair needs to be done. Whose fault is it? It actually says on the documents whose fault. It's either gonna be the landlord's fault or the tenant's fault. And if it's the tenant fault, they lose their voucher. And that's called leverage. You understand what I'm saying when I say leverage, right? That means you have some control over this situation, right? Hey man, don't tear up my crib, but you're gonna lose your voucher. And let me tell you what's something very valuable. A voucher is very valuable, right? Somebody being able to get a portion or they full amount of rent paid. So hey, use that, right? Hey, you ain't tearing up my crib, that's on them. Right? And if they don't take care of it, then you can go on and find you another one. And it's not that hard to find another person because there's a lot of people in need out here. So there's a way to use that from a business perspective and an altruistic perspective.
So you mentioned some of the things, and Brandy, I want you to also opine. Can y'all kind of walk us through what, like if I'm looking to be a landlord and put my inheritance property on housing, kind of walk us through some of the other things. Do I need to own it straight out? What if there are multiple property owners? What condition does the house have to be in for them to even consider it? Is there any guidance that is given to get the houses up to code? Can you kind of walk us through some of that? Because I'm thinking, is that what some of y'all are wondering with your questions? Well, I am, so I'll ask for y'all. So can you tell us a little bit more about that, Brandy?
Sure. Now, one of the things that I want to say too, and I'm going to go backwards and then come forward. One of the other misnomers that I want to make sure people understand is that housing doesn't pay as much as market rent. I think that that's important because especially here in Houston, depending upon different zip codes, you can actually sometimes get a little bit more than what market rent is.
30% more in some zip codes.
Right? So that's something that is important to understand as well. But this is a great question because honestly, I'm not originally from here. My people are, but I'm not. And so my brother owns a property here, and Onaje actually helped me help him put that together. And so what we needed to do now, first off, if you have a loan or a lender on the property, there is nothing wrong with you putting it on Section 8, right? It does not interfere with your current note. It is not gonna make you have to pay it off right now, right? So just know that if there's a mortgage there, you're good, okay? So one of the first steps you need to make sure of is to contact the housing department to figure it out because they already tell you what they want. They tell you exactly what you need to do with every aspect of the house. So then you just make sure that you use the checklist and make sure that the property is up to their code. Now, say you have a property that's in disrepair. This is where now strategically you need to come together if you don't own it alone, and you guys need to determine who is going to be the credit partner in order to get the money, in order to fix it up. But say that's already done. So the checklist is really not complicated at all.
This is on the Houston Housing Authority website.
Yes.
So it's not the City of Houston's Housing Department. It is the Houston Housing Authority website. That is the entity that controls Section 8 housing.
Thank you. So the checklist was really simple. It literally helped me walk through every single room of the house and to identify if I needed to paint, if I needed new sockets, if I had
window locks, yeah, all kind of stuff.
And it was really simple. It was really easy. Like the person that had been in the property before, they were a regular paying tenant. Do you know when I walked in that property, it had roaches, it had all kinds of stuff, like it completely tore it up, right? So there were some repairs and some things that needed to be done, but it only took like maybe $5,000, I think, at most, right? In order to get it to the place that it needed to be. And now that property has been rented for the last 4 years successfully, and it's been making more and more money, because here's another thing. They increase the amount on a regular basis.
Once a year, you can request an annual increase in rent to keep up with the market. That's another misnomer, is that you cannot raise rent on housing. You absolutely can. It's a one-page piece of paperwork that you have to fill out. And it's easy.
I'm telling y'all, it's so easy. And the benefit of that, the one thing I didn't tell you guys is this is a house that he purchased for my niece. My niece is 10 years old. This house is gonna pay for her college no matter where she goes. She's had this house since she was 2 years old. So when she comes here to visit me for 2 weeks like she does every single year to go to summer camp, I take her to that house. She knows the tenant. Because I've had the same tenant in the property who's taken better care of the property than the person who was not on Section 8. That property has increased in value by more than $150,000. Thank you, COVID financing, right? And so how much different would her life be? How much different will your kid's life be? How much different would your life be had someone taken the steps necessary and done the sacrifices necessary to put you in position? Because that's what we need to do for one another. We need to keep putting each other in a better position than we were in at every aspect and time frame in our life.
And thank you so much for mentioning that. Right now, if you all have not caught on, this is time for us. We get ready to go into the holidays, so when y'all are getting together at Thanksgiving, it's time to have these family conversations. It's 5 or 6 of y'all. Have it now. Look, we got this house over here. I got the credit. I learned at the, NARAB Building Black Wealth Tour that there's some renovation capital out here. I'll go ahead and apply. We're gonna get the house fixed up. We're gonna set it up either on housing, or we're gonna set it up privately as a long-term rental, and then we can figure out how we're gonna divvy up those funds. So it's gonna take somebody taking the lead, so you have to decide if that's going to be you, or figure out who the best person is. Let's not egos get in the middle here. Who's the best person to handle a family's business? But that's the thing, looking at our inheritance properties as a form of family business, because it is. And as my grandfather would say, land is the only thing God ain't making no more of. He made all the land he's gonna make. That's why it's so valuable. So when we talk about rental properties, we talk about housing. What if I don't wanna do that and I just wanna go ahead and fix the house up and just have a separate long-term rental, or a short-term rental like a VRBO or an Airbnb? What are we talking about there?
Yeah, so, okay, let's say housing ain't for you, right? See, like I said, I rent property. That's what I'm doing. I'm renting every way I can rent it. Because as long as we can keep property, right? You just searched 4 years, 150 grand?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. So y'all heard that, right? Let's talk about Sunnyside, South Park. Years ago, I was buying property over there for $30,000, $40,000, $50,000. This stuff is worth $250 now. Okay, so when y'all are selling y'all property off to a wholesaler or whoever texting you a postcard in the mail, y'all know what I'm talking about, right? When y'all selling that, y'all selling for 50, 60 grand. They making, there's a reason why they calling y'all. There's a reason why they call it. So let's say you don't want to do housing, right? Let's talk about the benefits of short-term rentals, okay? We own a boutique hotel called The Escape on Emancipation in Houston, 3rd Ward. It's a former 8-unit complex that frankly was a slumlord complex. I bought this property from somebody that did not look like us, that was a slumlord in my community. I did not want him there, so I said, hey, thank you for participating. It's time for you to go, here's some cash. Thank you. Because they didn't have a vision. They didn't believe in 3rd Ward. I do, that's my spot, right? That's what I love. So because I believe in 3rd Ward, in the location, the downtown, I said, guess what? People visit Houston all the time. They like to kick it, they like to party, they like to go to turkey leg hut, they like to go do internships, all of these kind of things. And I felt that this could be a marketable property, okay? So we put this on short-term rentals. The benefit of short-term rentals is that typically if you operate it properly, you could make at least 2.5 times above the market rate. Still there? Oh, yeah, I'm still there. So in this case, this property, I'm gonna give y'all some numbers so y'all know it's real, okay? So when I bought it, the slumlord that didn't look like us, they was getting rents at $550, $600. Because they didn't believe in the area, they didn't improve on the property to try to increase rent. For me, I submitted my documents to the bank, submitted what you call a pro forma, right? That's an estimate of what we're gonna put into the property and what we anticipate to get out of it. Okay, the bank said, you know what? I think you can make $950 on these. That's reasonable. These are 1-bedroom, 1-baths. Okay, so we finished the renovation, had some professional realtors come in there, appraisers come in there. They said, yeah, this is kind of nice. I think you get $1,200 out of it. Okay, so that's already pretty dope, right? Well, short-term rentals, we're averaging about $2,000 to $2,200 a month renting short-term rental. And y'all hear a lot of bad things about Airbnb, right? All they hold parties and all this kind of stuff. Most of our clients are coming. I had a bunch of interns coming this summer, right? They'll go to TSU. I got a couple students at TSU, U of H, that kind of thing. We'll get kids relocate. I get a ton of relocators, right? All the people, y'all hear it's 100,000 people coming to Houston every year, right? Those people need a place to stay temporarily, right? While they check out the scene, while they go hook up with a realist, right? To go buy a house, you want to be in it, and that hotel costs expensive, right? Hotels are expensive and they're small. I'm 6'3", I don't like being in a small hotel, right? So we offer fully furnished, right? All bills paid, right? Kitchen, parking, all of this kind of stuff. You're like, man, I'm not just paying for a lot. I am, but I'm also charging a premium, right? And that's the whole beauty of short-term rentals. We get to charge a premium, and the benefit of short-term rentals is that the property, to run a good business, you must clean it at every time, right? So somebody moves out, you bring a cleaning crew in, hey, we got some damage, you repair it because you got to be up to snuff for the next guest. So what happens is, I've owned this property for 15 months now, or we've been operating for 15 months, and it looks brand spanking new still at this moment because we're constantly cleaning it and making it look new and all this kind of stuff and refreshing it. So the benefits of short-term rentals is that you're likely not going to have any hard repairs on the property when you're kind of done with it.
And can I just point out one more thing before I pass the mic back to Brandy? Keep in mind, again, you choose your tenant. You choose your tenant. So even if you have this is your property. So if you don't get a good vibe on somebody, no thank you, keep your money, go somewhere else. You don't have to rent to those people. The other thing that I'd like one of y'all to talk about after Brandy as well is for the person who's saying, okay, my credit's not where I need it to be, Do you all know of any credit repairs or any credit services? Now, the City of Houston, through the Office of Complete Communities, has the financial empowerment seminars that also offer issues around credit and helping you get your credit back to a healthy place. But if you all have some suggestions, we'd love to hear about how you all can maybe help make some referrals that way too. Randy?
Okay. The one thing I wanted to follow up and finish with his thought is the fact that we're talking strategy here. I think that part of the reason why we lose our wealth at debt or death is because we only think in one direction. Sometimes you need to understand all of the opportunities that you actually have. For you to be able to understand how to operate short-term, Section 8, long-term, mid-term, how to even make it a peer space, whatever those things are, it gives you more options so that no matter what the market says, no matter where rates are, no matter what's going on, you can hold on to your property. So I want people to understand what we're also talking about is strategy. Now, as far as credit is concerned, look, I'm gonna tell y'all, it's not there today, but at one time, I think I had like a 425 credit scores.
I had a 498.
Something crazy, right? Because, I mean, life.
We've all been there.
Life. So the first thing you need to do is not even be ashamed of it, because at the end of the day, credit is not permanent. That score doesn't have to stay there. It can be changed, it can be transformed, it can move. So the first thing I think in terms of that is to understand that it's okay. Now we know what's going on, now it's time to deal with it. The second part of it is look at your credit score. There's so many times that I talk to home buyers or people who want to buy commercial property, and I am the first person who's looked at their credit score. This is your report card. And so it's important that you don't just do the freecreditreport.com. I think that that's helpful for people to have, but if you did not know, it does not tell you your credit score, right? And credit scores change. I personally am a proponent of people going to Experian.com and pulling their own tri-merge report. Pull it for yourself. Not Credit Karma, but pull it directly from the repository. Look at that thing. See what's there. Is it even right? True story. Me and my dad got into a car accident when I was in 8th grade. And thank God we walked away from it. They took me in an ambulance. And when I got into UC Berkeley, I tried to get a credit card. Well, I couldn't get a credit card because my credit score was poor. And I was like, wait a minute, I've never even used it. Do you know that they had the ambulance bill from when I was in 8th grade on my credit report? For those of you who don't know, that's illegal because I wasn't even 18 at the time. I was like 13, right? They never billed my parents. So by looking at my credit report by itself, I increased my credit score by just disputing things that weren't even right. So there are plenty of times that there are things on your report that are not correct. And so it's important for you to actually look at it. There are definitely credit repair companies that are out there. I'm a believer in credit education. I think that you should know how something works before you pay someone to do it for you. That's just my personal opinion. No shade. I'm just about education. So there are definitely groups that I know of, and we can talk about that at our booth that's in the back if you want that information, that you can actually learn this information for yourself. There's all kinds of information that's out there. And credit is the new way you get locked out of information and opportunities, because if you want financing and you don't want to use your own money, you do realize that there is a minimum. You either have it or you don't. It's really black and white, but you're in control of that. And you can change that. So I just want to encourage everyone to go ahead and make sure that they understand that credit's not permanent. It can transition. And it's up to you to just move forward and be okay and just change it.
Thank you so much for saying that, Brandy. Are y'all feeling a little bit more empowered now? Good information? Great. I'm really glad. So look, y'all already know we've had a lot happening today. We're running a little bit behind, so I want to transition and pivot. Can I get a realtist with a microphone to take a couple of questions before we get ready to close it out and get ready for the next session? So if there are realtors, y'all can take one of our microphones that can take a couple of questions. Thank you so very much. All right, so if there is anyone right now, we're gonna open up the floor for about the next, I say maybe 5 to 7 minutes for people that have questions. Thank y'all so much for your participation. I can already tell Big Mom and Big Daddy house gonna be all right. I see the smiles on your faces. See some of y'all texting your sisters and brothers. Y'all quit playing. Let's go figure out what we're gonna do around here now. All right, go right ahead.
Hi, I was just wondering if you had any advice or strategies for folks out here who are part of who are dealing with heirship property, multiple heirs, and what they might be able to do to bring things around so that everyone benefits.
Right. That's the whole purpose of this session. And that's what we were talking about, and I'll let Brandy talk about that as well. So the first thing I would do when we wrap up here is go and speak to one of the attorneys over here that are with the National Bar Association, because if there are multiple heirs, which many of us have to deal with, then you do have to bring everybody in, whether or not people are gonna stay in the process or they actually want out of the process. But you definitely have to clear that title so that you can move on to some of the options that were discussed today. So, Brandy?
Well, that segued into what you were going to say. I would also introduce a title company into that. Someone who could do a complete search of the property to make sure that you are even aware of all of the heirs that actually exist with the property in the first place. Now, the challenge sometimes when it comes to death is that people can be really emotional, right? And some of what we're talking about is a little bit more cerebral. And so what I would suggest that someone does, especially if you're the person who has the vision of what to possibly do, is just create a plan. Like, even if it's a basic plan of what you see the property can be or what can be done, because a lot of people are actually visual, right? So they'll hear you say something, but it might not make sense. They don't know the world map. And sometimes if you can just show them what you're trying to do and how it would actually benefit everyone, it can be more of a win-win situation and you can get more people on board.
Yeah, so I would add in, part of this thing is about conversation and leadership, right? So if you're the person that has the property's in your name, number one, let's solve this problem before we have to go to the next place, right? And that's where I would recommend, I'm not a lawyer, but go get a trust, okay? What that does is that's a blueprint, that's instructions of what you want to happen to your property after you pass, right? So my kids are outside, they're the beneficiaries of my trust, but guess what? They gotta roll with my rules, y'all. And some of my rules are, ain't nobody getting nothing until they're 25. Ain't nobody, y'all go to college or what? What y'all doing? Are you making some money already? I need them to show and prove to the trustee that they know what they're doing. So that's something that we all can do. That's number one. Number two, let's say we got heirs right now and they already arguing and bickering or whatever. Okay, so look, JoJo and them, you know who JoJo is? We talking about JoJo, right? So, you know, JoJo and them, they just want a piece of it. They don't want to do nothing. All right? Whoever the leader is, hey, JoJo, you ain't going to do nothing. Let's pay you out. See, sometimes you just got to pay people out. All right. Now, wait.
It's okay to do that.
I absolutely recommend that, right? Because some of, you know, part of the bickering is that somebody ain't doing something, somebody don't want to pay the taxes, somebody don't whatever, they just want their piece. Okay, it's time for you to roll, JoJo, right? Because you ain't doing nothing with this no way. So where you gonna get the money at, y'all? Anybody want to guess? How you gonna pay out JoJo? Out the house.
Out the house.
Out the house. And you're gonna get with your lawyer. Y'all gonna have a family agreement this Thanksgiving, right? We're going this Thanksgiving. We're gonna talk. Oh, well, he said this with him. Let's go ahead and get this settled. Because right now, this house is costing someone some money. And we want to turn that into an asset that's making us some money. So, hey, such and such, JoJo, whoever, y'all don't really want nothing to do with this. You want to check right now? Your percent right now, the as-is asset house is only worth 100. So guess what? It ain't fixed up yet. So don't come back. We're going to pay you out now. And let's say it's 10 of y'all, so guess what? You get 10 grand. Okay, you get 10 grand, you get 10 grand, you get 10 grand. Till
but
guess
please don't do this at the table.
No.
Make sure that you're going to an attorney and or a title company to make sure once you give that check, that person's rights are completely removed from the property moving forward.
And yes, lawyers cost money, but this here is bigger money that we're talking about, y'all. Right? See, some people in our family can't see the vision that this house is worth money. right? And worth more than what the current value is because we're gonna fix it up. So we go to our lawyers, we go to your title company, get your trust together, all of that. And some of that might be you getting that line of credit or that loan against the house in a new company name or in your name or whatever, and you just pay them to go away. And you get your lawyers and you make sure all this stuff is signed properly, right? And you got the roll. And you get your portion, cool. But you don't get the next portion, right? Because I put up my credit. I put up this money, right? And the next portion is you put 20, 30 grand into it, maybe it's worth 200 now. Now that 70 is yours, that extra 70 is yours. And I ain't trying to be shady, but hey, he had this shot. They had their shot. And see, we have to have some of these hard conversations because you know they ain't about to do nothing no way. And the alternative, and I want to be clear of what the alternative is. The alternative is that 9 times out of 10, you're going to end up selling this property for pennies on the dollar to some wholesaler or something, or the city's gonna take it from you via taxes, or code enforcement might get you, right? So somebody's gonna get it for pennies on the dollar. Why are we letting this happen?
And the one other thing that I wanted to also point out, now this is me switching hats just a little bit. Legal services are not cheap, and I know that. I'm a lawyer. We're not cheap. But this is an investment into a bigger payoff down the road. It's gonna cost you money either way.
Either money that's actually out of your pocket or money that could have been put back into your pocket.
And it costs more to try to fix something on the back end. This way, you have control of how much you're putting in so you know what you're getting out. So when you look at finding an attorney to work with you, look, it's not going to be cheap. But this is something that you should look into. Look at your 401k. Come on out of that a little bit. If that's what you need to do, save whatever you need. Don't be deterred by costs. It could be the ones of you who are interested in doing something with the property and furthering family legacy, putting your money together, but make the investment in the right professionals to help you put together the strategy you need to keep your family property in your family. And not only that, but to be able to make the income, because this is what our ancestors were thinking about. In their mind, yeah, I want my family to always have somewhere to live. Well, now we all pretty much have somewhere to live, but the value is in the land. So even if you don't want to live there, you don't know who, your grandkids, your niece, or somebody else could keep that family in the land and build something else. So just think about that as you're putting together your family strategy. Brandon?
I'm gonna give you guys a real transparent moment right now. So I did tell you guys about my grandmother and her leaving property for all of her children, right? My grandmother passed away about 18 years ago. But in real life, when everyone else was dealing with COVID in 2020, my husband passed. And this was right before the world shut down and everyone couldn't go nowhere and all those things. So while everyone else was worried about that, I was just dealing with real life because life lives. Had we not had some things structured, to this day, his 2 children would not have been able to go to college. They now have the money to go to college because we purchased the house. Right now, I have other investments and he has other investments, but in real life, through debt or death is where we lose it. And at the end of the day, having things structured properly was the only reason why when my whole life was empty and I didn't know if I was gonna wake up or get out the bed or do any of the other things that people really do during grief. Grief is hard. It's not easy. When you lose somebody that you love, whether or not it's big mama, big daddy, your sister, your brother, your cousin, your husband, your child, the last thing you really want to be dealing with or worried about is somebody calling you because you can't pay something or calling you without no options. And it made such a difference. That is why we each have our own stories, but that is why we are so passionate about trying to make sure that people wake up. Do not lose that property. I promise you that within everything that is in me, it made me so happy that even though his children were not birthed by me, that I could give them the gift that their father would have wanted them to have, and that is a college education. You hear me? So don't think we're just up here because we're trying to be all whatever. Understand that we know how this can be, and we've seen things on the other side. And we want every last single one of you to be able to direct your last name legacy.
Well, look, Brandy, we all join you in sending our thoughts and prayers to you. I did not know that, but I appreciate you being transparent about sharing your experience, because it brings up another point for each and every one of you. Get your affairs in order. One of the hardest things that you have to deal with when you pass away, your loved ones are left trying to figure out what it is that you want. You were blessed that was already decided for you. So even as we're looking at what to do with our family's properties, Commissioner Ellis said it best. Once you do a will, you can redo it as many times as you want. It's your will, it's your stuff. The truth of the matter is, in your lifetime, you're gonna change your will several times because you will acquire different things. You may have different relationships. So get your own affairs in order. We have one more question and then we're gonna get ready to wrap it up.
Good afternoon. We talked about the housing and the landlord can choose his own tenant. So if I'm a landlord and I get my property Section 8 approved, do the person have to be approved? Do they already have to have a voucher for me to be able?
Yeah, great question, great question. So let me just walk through this process again. So number one, you have a house that you make the decision on whether you're gonna take housing on. That's your decision, nobody else's. Okay? So you're gonna go to HoustonHousingAuthority.com. There is a section called for landlords, the checklist. That's what she talked about earlier. You're gonna go through with your contractor, make sure it goes up to snuff. Next thing, you're gonna advertise. Go to get you a realtor out here, right? They're gonna list it on HAR, and they'll say, we accept Section 8. And you sit back and your phone gonna ring off the hook, okay? And this is my rule, right? So I teach landlord classes and all this kind of stuff. One of our rules is that we will not, they must, if they're a Section 8 person, they must send us their voucher before we even meet with them, okay? Because I wanna make sure that that voucher aligns with the amount of rent that we're willing to take on that property. So to answer your question specifically, I'm not even showing the property if it's a Section 8 person without seeing their voucher first, right? They can screenshot it, email it, whatever they want to do, but I got to see it first. And then the next step is to submit your paperwork. You have to prove to the housing authority that you actually own the house, right? Send your deed and all this kind of stuff. Send your sample lease, not a signed lease, okay? You send that sample lease in, then they'll schedule an inspection. They inspect it, they say, hey, check, good to go. You take your deposit from the person, and they have they whatever their portion is of the amount, because it won't necessarily be a full amount. I'd suggest to collect that amount before they move in. They move in, get their keys, you're good to go.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that question. And as we get ready to wrap this out, I want to bring this back to the front. Thank Dr. Courtney Johnson-Rose. I think I saw her in the room. Thank you again for bringing this and kicking it off in Houston, the Building Black Wealth and NAREB. Now look, y'all, we're not going to hit it and quit it. This is something that is an ongoing conversation. And one of the ways that we're going to keep that conversation going, I just want to bring back out to you all, of course, the Department of Neighborhoods has the monthly, a month of service legal workshops. They are virtual. They're every month. The flyer for our schedule and our information is right over here at our table. So please stop by and make sure you get that flyer. Right now, as we're talking about legacy building and building Black wealth, we are on a tour right now to do will-a-thons. These are free services. Okay, so we have will-a-thons that we are doing right now, transfer on deaf deed clinics. Okay, and assistance with estate planning. At our clinics, we will have Lone Star Legal Aid, Houston Volunteer Lawyers. These are all free, so make sure you stop by the table and get these two flyers. Then we also have Mr. Barnes and Mr. Sams. Their table is out here in the foyer. Where are y'all?
Yeah, we're right outside. We have a dual table with Wealth Masterminds Academy and Black Wall Street, the Spirit of Community. That's a children's book to talk about home ownership and wealth. And one last point, guys. We here talking about buying property. Wealth does not happen if you're selling it. Okay? If you're selling and getting rid of your property, the game of wealth is keeping it long term. Right?
Say that one more time.
The game of wealth is keeping property long term and transferring it to your heirs.
One more time for the people outside.
For the people in the back, we do not get wealthy by selling property, y'all. We do not. You gotta keep property long term, and we want it to be assets that make money.
And y'all do me a favor, when y'all go into either visit your people or when y'all going up and down the street and y'all see these will buy houses signs, these predators in communities, do me a favor. Pick the signs up and report them to my department because we prosecute them too. Okay? Make sure y'all do that. All right? So when you see them, don't just pick them up out the ground, take them somewhere and throw them in the trash. Okay?
But we don't want them to be prey either, y'all. We don't want you to be any prey.
That's right. Don't you dare sell your property for $2 to somebody who's gonna turn around and sell it for $200,000. You have options, and today you learned about them. Give yourselves a hand for building this black wealth. Thank you so much, Ms. Onaji, Ms. Sims. Thank you, NAREB, our Houston Black Realtors, the NBA, and I cannot be remiss without thanking my department, the amazing City of Houston Department of Neighborhoods. Thank you for being here.